Hi everyone, it's Sal here from AIXCL. I'm really happy to be making this video because it marks the first release candidate of the AIXCL project. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the project, basically we are a privacy-focused, local-first AI development platform, and we are typically used for integrating local LLMs into your software development lifecycle. We will be making future videos about how that actually works. And this is going to be a short video just taking you through the repository and to get you up to speed on how to essentially install the platform. And we're going to talk about some of the caveats that you might have in that process. Just to give you a bit of history, this project has was started about June last year. I guess I have to check the Git commit on that. So it's over a year, but in total time spent on this project, there has been gaps in its development. So I'd say the total time on this project has been around about 4 months. We have lucky to have 3 other contributors to this project. We have a Windows maintainer, myself, who maintains Linux, and we have an Apple maintainer, and we have a general purpose guy who is very skilled at jumping between those platforms and holding our hands when things go wrong. This project was born out of a requirement for the customers that we were talking to who were very excited about leveraging large language models, but who were under constraints as to how they could do that because they were either working with sensitive data, or they were working within legal frameworks and regulatory frameworks which prevented them from being able to leverage things like public GPTs, chat GPTs. So this is why we decided to focus on building this. We are leveraging tools that exist already. As we work down here, you'll see that the technology stack that we use is all open source, by the way. So that's the good thing, and will remain that way. You are free to build on top of this in any way that you like. But if you want to make contributions to this repository, we will only accept open source additions. But that does not prevent you from using your own custom tools. You're, of course, free to do so. So let's talk about a bit about that technology stack. We have a core runtime. This is always enabled. This is like the minimum that you will need in order to leverage the platform. And that comprises of Olama, which is our inference engine. Olama has a vast repository of large language models, and it provides a very suitable engine for single or small team use. It is not an enterprise product. You would use other inference engines if you had large teams. And by a large team, I mean if you had more than like 8 people, perhaps, developing in your team, you would either have, you'd be using Olama or locally, and then you would have some other inference engine like VLLM that would handle the team contributions. But if you're working with a team that's smaller than 8 people, and you all wanted to have a local instance running and one server instance, then Olama is fine for that. We also integrate it into your IDE, currently using the Continue plugin. And if you're using VS Code, or I believe it works with other IDEs as well, I'd like to say like IntelliJ, but yeah, it will work with other IDEs. VS Code is pretty ubiquitous out there as an integration for this. And we are also very pleased to announce that we recently integrated the LLM Council, which is a nice feature, although it's very experimental, and it basically allows you multimodal interactions using what's referred to as a council. It comprises of a chairman LLM who is responsible for orchestrating the council members, deriving at a suitable answer to the questions that you pose it. It's very experimental, and it's probably out of the scope for this. So I'm going to just run down and describe how, for example, you would go about using this in your day-to-day workflow. So what do we offer you here? We have what we call profile dependence operational services. So we provide different services depending on your use case. We have persistence for your prompts and conversations, and we give you also observability on the how things are operating under the hood. So if you were to set this up as a server, that's going to be useful for you. We also have a UI, which is provided by OpenWeb UI, and it's very useful. It acts and looks exactly like ChatGPT, and it will run locally on your laptop, or you can have it in a server configuration with multiple users. And it's a useful tool to be able to interact with the LLMs for day-to-day use. I don't have to talk about much about automation here for now. Infrastructure, we deploy as a Docker container, and we use Docker Compose. We make extensive use of Bash. That is our shell of choice, and that's very important going forward. It does not mean that you cannot use another shell, but currently we just support Bash, and we've optimized for Bash. So if you want the path of least resistance, grab yourself a Bash shell. They run everywhere, so you shouldn't have any problems with that. And as I mentioned, we also have a profile system that we use for user, developer, operations, and the entire system. User profiles are minimal. They're just the deployments with database persistence, and then these profiles will give you more and more services. It's worth noting that the sys profile, which is a complete deployment, that doesn't actually take up that much system resources. But if you are running on a thin box or a thin client, it's worth noting that. One thing that did become apparent to us is that you could also run this entire code base inside Git code spaces. Now, this I didn't know was possible. It was pointed out to me by a attendee of a recent talk that I did regarding the platform. So yeah, I'd be happy to hear if you guys are managing to get this up and running. I have tried it myself, but not with this release candidate, and it did work for me, albeit you have to understand that it doesn't come with a GPU, so that does limit the number of LLMs that you could potentially use. And we'll talk about the hardware as we go forward, because that's very key to what we're going to be doing. Some of the features, as I mentioned: local LLM execution, multi-modal orchestration, IDE integration. We have a web interface, conversation and prompt persistence, observability, profile-based deployments. We have a really nice CLI I wrote myself. So it gives you a CLI to be able to manage aspects of it. We shall see later. And there's some automatic updating, although my mileage on this is limited because automatic updates tend to break things. So we're now being a lot more prudent about pinning versions. So you will see some of the versions of the services that we're actually deploying are you'll get a warning saying, hey, you're not on the latest greatest. Well, there's a good reason for that, because if you were to install the latest greatest version of that component before we've tested it, you'll probably break something. So tread carefully. Now, system requirements. This is a little bit misleading and doesn't give you all the information. So I'm going to clarify what this means for you. I'm running on a 64 gigabit laptop. I have a terabit of disk space, and I have a GPU with 8 gigabits of VRAM. The most important component that will impact your performance and give you the most mileage on the LLMs that are available for you to use is your VRAM. So LLMs will run on CPUs, but you have to know which ones they are, and you have to account for them. My suggestion is, or what I would say is, do what I have done, which is grab yourself at a minimum something with about 8 gig of VRAM. Now, I know people will scream and shout at me and say, oh, I've managed to run this on a Pi. That's fantastic. We love you. And we would love you to contribute to us. Let us know which models they were, and I'd be happy to include some documentation with respect to optimizing for CPU-only deployments. by all means, but I'm just talking for me right now and what's worked for me. And that is 64 gigs RAM, 1 TB disk space, and 8 GB of VRAM. And I wish I had more VRAM, so bear that in mind. And if you were going to do this as a server setup, that would be a big bottleneck for you. You would want to have a pretty beefy server, probably with multiple GPUs and plenty of VRAM. So assuming you have all of this, let's dive in. First thing you're going to do is going to clone the repository, and you're going to execute the you're going to execute the execution script, the AIXCL script, with the argument utils and with the parameter utils and the argument check env. That's going to run a quick test of your environment to make sure things like Docker is running, make sure you have enough memory, disk space, and it's going to do a GPU check. And if you don't have a GPU, that's fine. It's going to automatically take that into account, and it's not going to stop you from running the platform. As I mentioned before, we run with Bash. You definitely want to execute the Bash completion script here. That will allow you to navigate the client, the CLI, the command line interface, much more effectively. It will tell you what commands and parameters and arguments are available to you. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start the stack. In this example, we're starting with a minimal user profile. If you want my advice, I just go straight with the sys profile. But yeah, if you're short on resources and you're only really interested in LLM integration with your user IDE, then this will suffice. This is a quick description of what you get with the different profiles. And after you've done the check-env and you've started the stack, your first task is going to be to add some models. Now, as I mentioned, Ollama is our inference engine, and if you want to get a list of the models that are available via Ollama, go to their website, and you'll see a nice search field in there, and you can go and have a look at all the models. Again, the examples that we provided here have been optimized for my test system. These are what I know work. Okay, so by all means, experiment. The key thing here is you see the billions of parameters here are very small. That's because I only have 8 gig of VRAM. If you're only going to be running this with one model, then by all means, go ahead and optimize it and get a larger model if your VLAN allows for it. And this is the experimental feature that we're putting in right now. Very experimental, but fun nonetheless. This is the LLM Council, which, as I mentioned before, comprises of a chairman and council members, and they will respond to your questions, and the chairman will coordinate the best answer from the participating council members. Very experimental at this moment and optimized for software development. This code was lifted from an open source project, which was a general purpose council, and we have adapted it for software configuration. The way that we adapted it was we changed its system prompts, and it was quite nice. You have access to do that. If you wanted to target the council at a very specific language, you can do that, and we will be delving into how you can do that in future videos. And it's really not that difficult at all. As someone who's I would describe myself as a terrible developer, I had no problems negotiating this task and recalibrating the LLM Council, again using the LLM Council, which was actually pretty good fun. Okay, so we have some profile management, platform management via the CLI, start, stop, restart, status, logs, and you can get you can view the logs for all the running services, or you can have a granular service logs. This also is the same for service control. So we have what we call a stack control. which is profile orientated, and then you can go specifically into a service control if you just want to restart one service. Why is this here? Is if you do make changes or if you have problems, you don't necessarily want to bring the stack up and down every time you make changes, or if you're troubleshooting. This was born out of a troubleshooting exercise. We found ourselves doing this so often that we decided that it was worthwhile to have some appropriate management for this to save us time. You will benefit from that. Model management, as I said before, you can add, remove, and list the models that you have. Then that does a quite nice job of doing that. Okay, again, all we're doing is wrapping over what the Olama API. Console configuration, you can configure it. I think in this instance, we have a maximum of 3 participating models, 1 as chairman, 2 as counselors. That is a variable that can be optimized. Like if you have more VRAM and you want more counselors, we will touch on that in future videos, but you could probably scale the code and work it out for yourself. It's just a one parameter that's given, and you're not limited essentially into what that number is. We also provide you some dashboards. This is super nice if you're interested in the internals, system internals, platform internals. You can get all kinds of dashboards that we've pre-configured for you with what we thought is useful. We're all open for suggestions. If you have other metrics that you're potentially interested in, by all means, give us your contributions, and we'll happily look into them and see if we can include them into future releases. We also, as part of this development process, had to write lots of tests, and you will also benefit from those tests if the system stops working in a particular way. I've noticed that's supposed to be sys. I'll update that. Yeah, so you can run these tests. This is a full platform test. Oh, sorry, yeah, this will actually list this. And to do a full platform test, you would do this, but with sys. These tests are profile dependent. So obviously, if you've chosen a user test, user profile, you just want to test that. We also have component targets. This was especially useful for the database. I was losing database connections, and I didn't really want to run a full platform test or profile platform test. So you can just simply go for one component and understand if it's passing the tests or not. And the kind of tests that we have, again, we're super open for contributions here. I guess we got away with the minimum amount of testing that we needed to do in order to get it to RC1. I fully expect the testing to become more sophisticated as we continue to develop on the platform. And then architecture, I guess you guys can read this for yourselves. It's an important notice actually about the architecture. So this is an LLM assisted project. And of course, we have optimized this repository so that our LLMs will know how to interact with our governance accordingly. So we have rules and regulations as to how things are managed, and they're mainly for the LLM. These are not. These will actually make your life a lot easier because they will. For example, we have workflows for ticket submission. You don't have to second guess how to submit a PR to us. You simply have to refer to the specific MD file, which is basically developer workflow.md. And as long as the LLM is aware of that, so you supply it to it as context, I will be showing you how I use this tooling in future videos. It will make that decision making for you. And it's super nice because it means that our repo stays consistent. And if we do change your workflow, you will all inherit it without requiring training or even awareness as to what is required. This is very, very powerful. And if nothing else, if you guys are just interested in how to set up a repository for use with LLM assistance, this is a great way of finding out about that. And it's It's very well documented as well, in my humble opinion. So what else do we have here? We did a lot of performance tuning, which we've captured and we've open sourced. We would love for people to get back and tell us, what we've done wrong. And if you are very good at performance tuning, and yeah, get in touch. We this is a big deal for us. The user experience is fundamentally aligned with the performance. If you're waiting a minute for a response, you're not going to use this. So we're trying to get as much performance out of the system as possible. So we're really interested in trying to get as much bang for the buck as possible. And I've put down some of the things that we've done in our performance testing to make our user experience more pleasant and fruitful. These have all been captured. Plenty of documentation. Just as a parting shot, by all means, please go ahead and have a look at this. If this is Tilda, just get your AI assistant to summarize this stuff. It's all organized in a really nice way so that it's going to make life a lot easier for you guys. And these are the contributors. You can see we actually have right now more bot contributors than normal people, which is great. Less people to hire. And yes, please have a bash at with this, and let me know how you get on. The future videos which I'll be making will dive into the actual use and how that all hangs together. Thank you very much for your time, and yeah, all the best, and happy holidays. I believe New Year is coming in the next few days, so all the best. Enjoy. Thank you.